Good morning. I'm going to teach you something. Some of you already know it. Y'all know it, right? So I am Rashida Govan. I'm a senior fellow here at the Aspen Institute, and I'm very proudly working on BMWP and trying to translate it. Not trying, I'm translating this to a variety of audiences so that these four constructs get lifted up in a way that they are implemented and adopted in all kinds of spaces so that we can transform communities in ways that ensure that all of our young people are thriving and their families are thriving and that we continue to be anchored in love. And so I'm coming to you anchoring this greeting in love. And I want to also let you know that I'm here adopting a posture of gratitude. So on this last day that we have together, I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for getting up this morning. Thank you for this breath, because you know it's been hard to breathe. I was going to teach you I go, I may, but y'all got it together real quick. But I've been doing this with people around this convening, teaching them I go, which means I need your attention, and your response is I may, which means you have my attention. So I want to practice it with you, just because I want to bring my culture into the room. I go. I may. I go. I may. I go. I may. I go. I may. Yes, I know you have. I have your attention. Thank you. I am here today to do the grounding, just to get us started. And I'm just going to share, like I'm a little bit off today, and this is not a bad thing, because life is life. I always say life be lifing. Life has a way of doing the most when you feel like you need a break. But the one thing that I know that helps me through challenging times, and I think we are in some challenging times, is community. So I'm happy to stand here with you today, and I'm needing you. So I need you to know that I need you. So what we're going to do today, in order to ground ourselves and prepare ourselves to hear from our amazing panelists. This plenary is going to be great. It's going to talk about how we do this BMWP thing. But before we do that, I need you. I'm telling you this. I'm serious. We're going to do a little bit of call and response. I'm going to ask you to dig into your memory and bring into this room the people who made it possible for you to be here. So I'm going to do something called the libation, which is practiced in many different cultures. I'm bringing this to this room representing many different African cultures, and it is a way that we honor and remember our ancestors. And why I felt that it was important is because when we feel lost, when we don't know how to navigate very difficult times, we got to remember that this road has been walked before. We have beat these things before. And in our histories, in our culture, if we just remember, if we dedicate ourselves to studying it, then we will be able to win. We will win. So I want you to say, we will win. 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 I had to say it because I need to feel it. I need to believe it, okay? And so, I need you, I'm telling you, I've been in a space of I never lose. I either win or I learn. That's Nelson. Nelson Mandela gave us that. And so I'm sharing that with you because I need you to feel that. But today I am going to ask you to call into the room those folks who are our storytellers, those folks who are our culture bearers, those people who taught you what belonging meant. The places where you went to seek refuge were not likely buildings, but people. I want you to bring them into the room. I want you to bring into the room the brave ones, the folks that took risks to make it possible for us to be here today, together. You know, there was a day when this wasn't legal. Isn't this remarkable? It's absurd though, right, at the same time. But it is a remarkable thing. We take it for granted, but I want you to call them into the room. And I don't want you to think they have to be somebody famous. The first person I'm going to call is going to be my grandmother. I want you to call in the people who gave you the lessons that make you stand here strong and proud and make it possible for you to do the work that you're doing. And so when we call out these names, I'm going to say, Ashe. And that means, and so it shall be. And so it's like putting a stamp on it. We are calling them into this room, and so it shall be. They are with us, protecting us, guiding us, walking with us. We are not alone. And so I'm going to start by asking you to sit for a moment in silence, because I want you to start to remember. And so let's breathe, if you can. I guess we are breathing because we're still here. But let's just start with a deep breath. Let's do that again. And when you exhale, push that out. You can make some noise with it if you want. And if you want to, you can close your eyes. But I want you to get connected with your body. Feel your feet in the ground. Feel those fingertips. Any sensation on your skin. What is your body trying to tell you? Listen for a moment. I want you to remember the many people who came before you, those who are your loved ones, those who have inspired you, those who taught you, those who loved you, who are not with us anymore. I want you to remember them. I want you to feel in your body the hugs that they gave you. It could be a pat on the head. It could be a joke that they told that filled your whole body with laughter. I want you to remember them. I want you to remember the people who helped you to believe in who you could be and what was possible. I want you to remember the people who helped you to dream bigger than you started out dreaming. Let us bring their energy into this room. Let us bring their lessons into this room. Let us invite their spirit into the room so that they can guide us. And so I'm going to ask you to call out some of those names. And I want to name that we have a plant here and this water, and that is how we pour into them. We pour into their, bring their spirit into this room, and we bring it back to the earth. We are anchoring ourselves here today in their spirit and in the tradition of my ancestors. So I'm going to ask you to call out those names. And I'll start with Martha Lee Dabney, Grace Lee Boggs, Toni Morrison. Shout it out because they need to hear you. Nanny Helen Burroughs. Keep them going. We need them. Toni Morrison. We need Fannie Lou Hamer. Come on. We need Octavia Butler. Come on, y'all. Shout it out, y'all. They need to hear you. Ashe. Say Ashe. Ashe. Keep calling them out, y'all. Maya Angelou. Your people, y'all, call them into this room.
Adam Hightower.
Thank you. Ashe. Give me one more time, the courageous ones, the brave ones, because we got to be brave right now. Ashe. Ashe. One more round, y'all. I just need you to bring those people into this room, bring those energies. Let's go. Ashe. Ashe. Asheo. Thank you. Thank you, y'all. .
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120 Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Emmanuel Lee, Outspoken Bean, and I'm here because of mentors in my life, right? And this is a visual representation. I've had the pleasure of mentoring Adam, and Adam mentoring Amaya, and this lineage that's here. The people who started Metaphor Houston, Shannon Buggs and Sixto Wagon, poured into me when maybe I would have probably felt I wasn't deserving of their water. And they are giants to me. And so the successes that I've had, I did not have them alone. I had them with not just because of the people who were before me, but because of the people who were walking with me at that time. So the poems that we'll be doing will be all in those lines, and I'm gonna go ahead and get off the stage, and you'll hear from Adam.
It ain't one of those nights. All right. So I've had the pleasure of talking to and meeting a few of y'all for the past couple of days, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Adam Mack. I am a teaching artist with Writers in the Schools. My job is to help imbue the power of creative writing and spoken word to young people across the city of Houston. I'm also the assistant coach for Metaphor, a youth spoken word team, an award-winning youth spoken word team. Okay. That for the past several years has kind of shaped the course of not only my career, but also like reaffirmed my love for poetry. And so for the past 2 years, we've taken home the title of Best Youth Poetry Team in the World. Yes, some love for that. And this year, we have Amaya Newsom here, who is representing this year's winning team. So can we show some love for Amaya? Can we build some energy for Amaya? Yeah. So, just a reminder, for those of you who have never seen a poem before, you can snap, you can clap, you can stomp your feet, you can show your love in any way actively during the poem. We want to show Amaya as much love as we can. This is a conference for people who are here to celebrate young people, and we want to celebrate this young person right here, right? Right? All right, Amaya.
All right, this piece is called Puzzled. My first puzzles were an introduction to life, experimenting with different shapes and sizes, learning the fundamentals before school could alter my mind. I was raised into puzzles. Learning to advance as the older I got, the more pieces I could handle. Puzzles are designed to test knowledge, and they've taught me two things: how to keep my brain sharp and boost my creativity. When I was born and my parents first dumped me on the table, they didn't know what kind of image I would express. To know me, you first have to gather the corner and edge pieces. Learn the basics about me to grasp a more clear vision, but some pieces may be deceiving. Corners out of order until you feel the click of the fit, as some never belong and never did to begin with. My outline comes from my roots. All the mannerisms I picked up from my friends, old and new, like keeping an open heart but my guard up when I need to. I'm always watching my surroundings. No matter where I go, my puzzle reminds me that I am never alone. My inside is crowded with the ones who were there when I needed them most. My best friend who let their home be my escape. My bonus family who took me in when the floods came. Despite everything I've been through, in every way life pulled me apart, they still found ways to reconstruct me piece by piece. No matter where I reside, I'll always carry a piece of home by my side. My puzzle represents my progress. I made it further than I ever imagined to be. No matter how many pieces I acquire, they will still hold the same beauty. The inconsistent curves symbolize trial and error. My puzzle has taken time to assemble. Trusting the process has been difficult for my body and my mental. I look at other jigsaw boxes and can't help but wonder how they are formed. They look nice on the cover, but once the pieces are revealed, you see their true colors. Some puzzles aren't worth it in the end. Some I should have put back on the shelf when I had the chance. Some were never meant to fit, some hanging on by a thread. Now I'm puzzled, confused, stuck in my head. Puzzles are designed to test integrity. Yet the only jigsaw I haven't completed is myself. I feel mine will be complete when I grow to my oldest, but even then it won't be, due to the pieces I've lost. My puzzle includes the ones that helped me prosper, the ones I've lived with and learned from. Even with the chaos around me, I was and will always be loved. When I'm done with puzzles, I like to bond them together and show them off. When it's my time, I hope someone will be proud to show me off like that. Even if there are pieces missing or no image to reference from the beginning. My pieces are not accidental. They're here for a reason. Even in the dry season, I will grow into my best self, and my pieces will always stay with me. If I finished every puzzle there ever was, I will still have one. None are beyond me, but I'm a puzzle that's not complete, but can never be undone. Thank you.
That's my kid, y'all. That's my student. And I just want to say thank you all again for allowing Bean, Asar, Jaden, Amaya, and I to share this space with y'all, right? So for this next poem, I ask nothing of y'all except that you listen and that you hear me. Let my pen be a flame. Let my words char in the pan to feed thousands. If there is no rice to feed the people, then let me plant it myself. You see, before me, my father ran a restaurant he stole from his colonizers. Before me, my grandmother saved seeds from her sister's farm as they fled the country. I am not so much a poet as I am a chef. Or a child of hunger. And I know a thing or two about making a meal with defiance. I know a thing or two about the temple of the dinner table, where we celebrate survival, relish laughter on our waiting tongues, love each other in heaping spoonfuls and pass plates, praise every dish that helps us keep living. And I don't mean just by making us full. I mean, praise the feast we forge out of nothing but determination and prayer. I break bread with everyone, even those who will never know me. Peek through digital windows to tables across the world. In Cambodia, a teacher serves lunch to her classroom. In Lebanon, a woman serves rice to the refugees. In Palestine, a food blogger cooks for hundreds of children. I set the table for strangers I've only seen in pixels and ask God to shield them from the armies that wish to silence their roaring stomachs. And I join the chorus with mine too. Remembering the nights my family spent lightheaded to keep the lights on. There are no people more devoted to worship than the hungry. And so I praise my mama, who used to stand in the food stamp line each month at dawn despite living in the country of gluttons. I praise my father, still rebuilding his aunt's farm fruit by fruit in the backyard. I praise my childhood homies who rebuked lunch debt, put nuggets and mashed potatoes on my empty tray and said, girl, eat. You see, before me, there was the language of craving, of company, of yearning for the warmth of conversation at mealtime. Before me, people pushed each other to survive with bite-sized blessings. They put filled fridges in food deserts, ordered pizza for the protests, broke the locks on warehouses and called them soup kitchens. Before me, people farmed and foraged and cooked and rebuilt cities from the stove up. Even now, I praise the things that keep my heart beating. My mama's pho, Ni's fried chicken, Gabby's arepas, Lois's zambusas, Kylan's granny's honeyed ham. At this table, we feed everybody. And we free everybody. And we remember the ache, remember the rumbling, remember all the ways our bodies say they still want to fight. We remember, even if our jaws do not. how the music of a starving belly declares us still here, still alive.
Give it up for Adam Mack, y'all. It is my absolute pleasure to make sure that they can have these kind of opportunities. I have a story for you real quick. When I was a child, I used to think my giants were club-carrying burly men who lived in the clouds, or they were adults, right? Both of which frightened me. But as I've gotten older, I have conceded to the concept that strength is complex. And Sasquatch stories aside, we are not absent of giants in our lives. They are truly found in the hearts of people, making their physical stature secondary. All of my giants, they are keen to slingshots. They have a pendulum sway of an abacus, striding second to none with a gait that states their fee-fi-fo firm feet, stepping in order to find a way through terrain that your foes can follow, and if they do, they will fumble at the wake of their morning mistakes. Y'all, there were times when I would ask my giants for a harp, and what they gave me was their heart. Watching them do so, it was like I was witnessing them personally unlocking a chest, because they were. Even standing eye to eye to them, I look up to them. They're my giants, no less. Mentors, they should know. Mentors know when to pull or when to push for you. They understand this, that their feet that lay the prints in the sand. Atlas knows that his shoulders were the balancing of holding. And sometimes the elephant in the room is a mouse, actually, taunting you from the peanut gallery. My giants knew that I had a few magical beans in my pockets. Thank God I didn't throw them out some random window. They had an option to bark. They had an option not to answer my knocks. They had an option, maybe they chose the option to see the gleam in my own beanstalk, y'all. Anytime I would ask a giant for a harp, what they gave me was their heart. Even standing eye to eye to them, I look up to them. They are my giants, no less. Thank you. Come on up. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for having us. Give love for Adam Mack and Brave New Voices champion, Amaya Newsome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. What a beautiful start to our final day together. Thank you, Dr. Govan, thank you. So Ayakui Skianakoi Neknau Geneva Wiki, I'm so thrilled to get to introduce our conversation this morning. And just to say, it has been such a joy to be with all of you here in Aspen this week. We have had such a powerful few days together, and we are going to end today on an absolute high note. Before we jump into the topic of our conversation and the framework, I just want to take a moment to recognize all of the learning and love and all the moments of connection. There were deals made all over the show. And all of the good work happening. And if we could just take a moment and look around at our table, look around at the room of this incredible group of people who are holding this shared vision of what it really means to Dr. Cantor's challenge about how do we create a world in which everyone has the context and the relationships to fully become their full potential. You all are holding that dream. You're all doing that hard work every single day. And just to echo Rashida Govan, just my heart is filled with gratitude for each and every one of you, so thank you. So you all know I have this amazing title. I get to be the director of belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. And we get to move in these spaces of absolute dreaming of what all the potential of that might mean in reality, and then get down to really nitty-gritty, how are we gonna federal funding together. And this conversation today is really going to set us up to get really specific about both how do we hold that big dream, but also like what are the concrete stories of how change is possible in real ways. And I know there are a lot of folks, especially our funders in this room, who are hungry for the conversation about how do we operationalize this work. And so we're going to get to it. But before we begin, we want to also just like name who is in this work with us. Oops. There we go, okay. So we are all holding this big vision of, and it is bold, right? It is Dr. Cantor's vision of what would it take to transform the policy, systems, structures, narratives in our nation so that everybody could realize their full potential with belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. And we are not alone in this work, as we never are in our network. And I just want to name who's here with us and start first with our community partners. You are going to hear from 3 of our communities this morning, Atlanta, Hawaii, and Montana. And I want to recognize some of the other partners who are going deeper in this work. First, I want to shout out Denver. Where's Denver? Thank you, Denver. If you haven't heard, Denver is on fire, and they are doing all kinds of incredible work. And one that I think is of particular interest of lots of folks, if you hadn't heard, they are now scaling mental health initiatives for youth and young adults with support from Mental Health Corps, Pinterest, and the Schultz Foundation. And so please check out Denver and all of their good work. And can I give a special shout to the 2 youth leaders who are just coming on board? Welcome, welcome. And Del Norton Tribal Lands, who stole the show yesterday, where are you at? Woo woo. They're going to be shy now. We celebrate. Del Norton Tribal Lands, where are you at? We celebrate many successes, but one that you all have to know is the Klamath Promise Neighborhoods with lots of partners recently advocated to change the name of the elementary school on the Yurok Reservation to reflect the village name in the Yurok language. And that's what belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose looks like in real time. And LA, where are you? LA is also on fire, and their partners are in the middle of a 4-year strategic plan named Horizons 32K to transform not only the child welfare system, but workforce and education systems for all opportunity youth. LA. And then looking ahead, we are thrilled to announce that we will have youth research fellows from each of the communities in this Belonging, Meaning, Wellbeing, and Purpose learning cohort. They will play a critical role in helping us shape and refine a BMWP playbook, a grant-making guide, a measurement framework. Their insights and their lived experience will ensure that our tools not only reflect the realities of our youth, but also resonate deeply with the communities we serve. And we are so excited for the knowledge, the vision, the passion that they will bring to the work. So all the young leaders in here, can I see your hands? Thank you, thank you. And then last May in Boston, we introduced a group of post-secondary leaders dedicated to making belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose a core of the post-secondary experience. To our post-secondary leaders who've been working so hard to develop case studies and document our learning, can you please raise your hand to be recognized? Thank you for all that you are leading and doing for your vision, and we thank you, and we are so excited to continue and deepen that conversation about post-secondary work in May. And then critical to this work, as you know, is the backbone of evidence and research and data that underpins these words. We have a set of research partners who are walking right alongside us. Raise your hand if you were with us in Aspen last year when we had a set of TED Talks on this stage on BMWP. Amanda Ticini really brought us about the power of belonging through concepts of sovereignty. Arnold Chandler shared data about how meaning-making interventions have a lasting impact on youth success. Our colleague Andrea Wagner presented the Wellbeing framework, which is crafted by young leaders in this network. And who remembers purpose expert Anthony Burrows sharing how purpose can not only improve life outcomes, but like our hearing and our physical attractiveness? So research partners walking alongside us, can you please raise your hands? Thank you, thank you. So before we dive into stories from community, I just want to take a really quick beat to make sure we're all collectively holding a shared understanding of terms. And before I jump in, who went to Dr. Govan's BMWP 101 on Monday? Okay, so you could probably give this talk. And then how many of you participated in a design institute yesterday? Okay, so we're all pretty caught up, but let's just do a quick grounding. And let's just say our definition of belonging, this comes from the Othering and Belonging Institute, and John Powell has been with our network for a very long time, absolutely an architect of so much of this work. And part of why we love this definition of belonging so much is that belonging doesn't mean fitting in. It doesn't mean just being able to show up and like be okay. Belonging actually means that you have the right to contribute and make demands upon society and political institutions. That's the definition of belonging. And part of what I also love is that it involves radical inclusion, a radically inclusive vision, and that it's also about opportunity, which our network has and always will be about. And then we've heard lots and lots of data about the power and evidence about the impact of belonging on all kinds of outcomes that we probably have to report about in grant reports, and also things that are really important, like life satisfaction and emotional well-being. Is Arnold Chandler here this morning? Almost. Arnold Chandler has also been with us for a very long time and has taken us on a learning journey from understanding life trajectories, understanding structural racism, and now really digging into this idea of identity-based meaning-making interventions. Also evidence and research that has tremendous long-term positive outcomes for youth and young adults. And then our well-being definition was defined by young people who said, we are gonna define well-being by ourselves. If you missed Juan Martinez and Fresh Track's Design Institute yesterday, we will be rolling out a well-being tool where young people can they've defined well-being, but now they'll get to measure well-being in their communities. And then I shared a little bit about Anthony Burrows' purpose data and the tremendous impacts on folks, but just also to name, like, purpose isn't just like, I know what my job's gonna be, I know what career path I'm gonna pick, right? It's like, what is my purpose on this planet? What is my purpose in the world? It's bigger than a job, a title, and again, developing that sense of purpose can lead to all kinds of greater life satisfaction and social connectedness. Okay. That was it. I tried to go fast. I just want us to all be there on the same page. Okay, and then let me also name, like, in this ecosystem of learning with us includes our funders. And funders, can you please raise your hands? Welcome, welcome. Last count, I think there were 78 of you on campus with us this week. And you know that your investment goes way beyond dollars. It's a commitment to this community and this journey, and it's fueling our shared impact. And we are so thrilled to have your learning and insight in your deals. Michael was making a lot of deals last night. Thank you. Okay. So I'm now going to bring up our panel in a quick second, and I just want to say this conversation this morning will showcase like very powerful, concrete examples of what belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose principles look like in action, how they're already having an impact, as you know, all across our communities. You will hear insights from a postsecondary leader, a community-based program representative, a juvenile justice judge, and 3 young adult leaders. Each will share their unique experiences and successes and challenges about implementing belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose in community. So as we listen deeply to these stories, like this is where theory becomes practice, right? This is where that research turns into action. So I just invite you to have an open heart, open mind. And one question that I hope you can all hold as we listen to these beautiful stories is like, what did it take to create the conditions of belonging? What did it take so all voices could influence and transform their context, to improve relationships, to improve well-being and purpose? So thank you all, and now I'm thrilled to invite up my fearless Vice President, Monique Miles.
Good morning, everyone. All right, I'm so glad Rashida set up the call and response because we will for sure continue that. And I also want to really kick us off with a thank you. I want to thank Dr. Rashida Govan, I want to thank Geneva, and I want to thank Mona Jawar for all of the incredible work they have done, right, to curate learning. And for Dr. Govan, part of my appreciation, the gratitude that I really want to lift up is specifically calling out our ancestors this morning and also continuing to root, and Geneva did this as well, every conversation we have in love. And one of my reflections as I think about the learning yesterday and connected to the learning we're going to do together today is wanting to make sure that I define for you all what I am thinking about and what we mean when we talk about love. So first and foremost, it is very important to name that for me, when I am speaking about love, I am talking about a love that connects me to my ancestors. And when I say that, I'm talking very specifically about this idea that the resistance my ancestors lived in was deeply, deeply rooted in love. And so there's the resistance that is part of it. And then the other part of it is the traditions of joy, the traditions of connection, the traditions of celebration. And so it's really important to name that because that's also really rooted when we talk about love. It's also important to note that this is a love that bears witness. It sits with you on your journey. It's with you in the high places and it's with you in the low places. It's a love that accompanies you. So that's the ancestral side of it. It's also a love that's rooted in the present. It's about family, it's about friendship, it's about community. It's very much about the here and the now and what is happening. Here's the other piece. It is also futuristic. It is a love that is reimagining and dreaming of a future. And that's really important because when we speak about love, what we are talking about is building wells for future generations. We are digging wells that while we may never drink from them, we are thinking very much in an indigenous way, 7 generations from now will benefit from these wells. That's the love that we are showing up in today. That's the love that this work is rooted in. And it's important to name that because everyone talks about love, and sometimes it's this fluffy thing, or sometimes it's this feel-good thing. And please, please hear me tell you, we hope that you feel good. We hope that you are well. And actually, really, our highest aspiration is that you all feel nourished. We want your time with us to be nourishing. But it's also really important to say that I am speaking about a love that calls us into our purpose. This love is a call to action about how we show up in solidarity with each other, how we show up in mutuality with each other. It's a love that really is rooted in I is we, because when you are well, I am well. That's the kind of love I am speaking to. That is the foundation of what we are doing, and it is the foundation of when we are talking about belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. And it feels really, go ahead, yeah, that's okay, give it up. It feels really important to start there so that you all know what we mean when we talk about love. And then I want to thank Geneva for really helping you all, not just the grounding and the definitions, because it really matters. It matters that we have shared language. It matters that we're making similar meaning, not just of the concepts, yes, but what they mean in action. So I'm really, really thankful for that grounding because now we get to tell stories. And we know that that's where our learning is the richest. It's in our storytelling. And so I feel uniquely honored to have this role of supporting so many different leaders from communities who are going to tell stories about what belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose looks like in action. And so I want to set this up because we all, and particularly these community leaders, were so thoughtful about the design of how we would have this conversation together today. And so I want to let you know that we will hit on all of these concepts: belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. But where we're going to start is with an individual story that's also about transforming programs using this belonging framework. After that, we are going to get into the structural side of this, because that we mean both of these things. It's very much about individual stories and individual transformation, and it's also deeply rooted in the structural. We're talking about structural belonging, the structural level. And we are going to, with that, tell a story about the justice system and also about the post-secondary system. And then we're going to pull the aperture back, and we are going to hear a story about citywide transformation, again, with this belonging frame. So knowing that that's the arc of the conversation we're going to have, it also feels really important, y'all, to connect some dots, because there was a beautiful, instructive conversation yesterday that while it was about the science behind this work, and we heard some young people's stories, it was also deeply rooted in so many of the principles of belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. So for the sake of our shared learning journey, it feels so important to connect some of those dots. So first and foremost, when we are talking about belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose, I just want to note, I want to lift up that both Brooke and Crystal so beautifully reminded us that this is always a story rooted in agency, the expression of accessing your power. So you're going to hear that again today as we have this conversation. And the thing about tapping into your power is that it's very much about how that then transforms, not just programs, not just structures and systems, but again, we're going to hear about what that means at the citywide level. And some of this will be deeply rooted, particularly for our population, in the power of youth and adult allyship. You're going to hear that today as well, just like Brooke spoke to yesterday. It's also so important to note that this is grounded in evidence. I loved yesterday, I think it resonated deeply that Dr. Cantor kept connecting the stories to science. I feel like we can't say this enough. We're not talking about things that feel good, although they do. We are talking about evidence-based practices. And so it feels important to just ground that as we have this conversation. These have been rigorously evaluated, and that's really important to hold in this conversation. The next thing that feels really important to note, again, this work is imagining and reimagining, always. And there's really two important things to hold when you're having a conversation about reimagining. Brooke did this beautifully. Yes, something feels wrong. This system needs to change. This doesn't feel right or good. That is necessary, but it's not sufficient. And our reimagining, we have to also know what we want to rebuild, what we want to replace, and that we are holding both of those things in our reimagining work. And that's really, really important, because that reimagining work is also our purpose work. That is the work that we heard them say, call them into their purpose. And then I love this, because then it connects to Anthony Burroughs. This is about contribution. Young people, meaningful contribution, personal transformation, system transformation. And then the final thing to connect the conversation we're about to have now to the conversation we had yesterday is this is also about shifting narratives, right? And again, there's two parts to hold. And listen, I'm not a binary person, but I do want you to know that there are two pieces to this. There's both sides. And here it is. The first is being able to name harmful narratives. And let me also say this, because this came up yesterday, harmful narratives that are anti-Black narratives, that are anti-Indigenous narratives, that are anti-Latino narratives. That's very, very important, naming those harmful narratives. And at the same time, and our friends at Frameworks helps us to continuously learn about this, we need to name the new narratives. We need to be really clear about what we are replacing them with and continue to set aspirations about how we share in those new narratives. And so I want to just name that will also be embedded in the conversations we're gonna have today. So now that I've connected some dots, I am so honored to introduce these panelists. So I'm going to start with my left and move across, again, also in the order of how we will tell stories. And I'm going to start with Lizzie. Lizzie is an undergraduate student at the University of Montana Davidson Honors College. She is studying in the School of Journalism and is a part of numerous campus organizations. As founder of Empower Montana's Association for BIPOC Youth, she facilitates after-school meetings for middle through high school age students to find community. She is both a DHC Presidential Leadership Scholar and a 2024-2025 Flagship Scholar for the nationally recognized Point Foundation. Show Livy some love. Livy some love. And then we have the Honorable Jessie L.K. Hall with us today. She has been a District Family Court Judge of the First Circuit, State of Hawaii since December 2017. She has been the lead judge in all divisions in the Family Court, as well as the presiding judge of the Hawaii 0 to 3 Child Welfare Specialty Court. Currently, Judge Hall is the lead judge and sits in the Juvenile Division, which addresses juvenile criminal cases as well as child welfare cases. Judge Hall has been involved with the development of an elementary level truancy pilot program, as well as culturally based diversion programs. And prior to joining the Family Court, Judge Hall was a practicing family law attorney for 18 years. Please show her some love. Telling y'all, we have this outstanding panel. We have also with us Dr. Kevin James, who is the 19th president of Morris Brown College, a historically Black college in Atlanta, Georgia. Under his leadership, the college regained accreditation after a nearly 20-year hiatus, becoming the very first HBCU to achieve such a feat. Driven by a commitment to Morris Brown's legacy, he initiated the Hard Reset campaign, successfully restoring the institution to compliance and recognition by the Department of Education. And with a career spanning over 23 years as an educator, administrator, executive business leader, Dr. James brings a wealth of experience to his role as Chief Executive Officer at the college. Please show him some love. Woo, woo. And next to Dr. James, we have Crystal McCullough. She is a senior at Morris Brown College, majoring in business with a concentration in esports. Throughout her academic journey, she has been passionate about blending her business acumen with the dynamic world of esports. And one of her proudest accomplishments has been creating an esports site for Prize Picks, which has provided her with invaluable experience in digital marketing and user engagement. Crystal is also recently appointed as the 90th Miss Morris Brown College. Yes. And you must know this, but you'll hear it when she talks for her. This is 100% about how she gets to serve and honor her community.
Beautiful.
And then last but not least, we have Cloud Ben with us. Cloud is a youth activist alum at New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board. Cloud is a 2025 English Lit and interdisciplinary graduate from Illinois Wesleyan. Cloud's pronouns are they, them, and their current youth activism is with New Deal for Youth. Please show Cloud love. I just needed y'all to understand the depth of the powerhouse sitting up here with me today. So, given these introductions, I'm so excited to start with Lizzie. So Lizzie, we're so excited to get into this story about growing up in Montana and finding a sense of belonging through your engagement with Empower Montana, which led to you establishing the program specifically focused on fostering belonging for young people who share your identity. Please tell us the story of launching your program specifically designed to foster belonging for young people who identify as Black in Montana. And please tell us the impact the program is having.
Yeah. So for context, I have spent my whole life living in Missoula, Montana, and the Black population of Montana is 0.6%. So yeah, that just gives an idea of that experience. And so, yeah, I struggled to find a sense of belonging in school. I faced immense bullying. I even had teachers use racial slurs. And when I went to administration, I was never believed. And yeah, I couldn't find other peers who related to these experiences. And so when I was in middle school, I was able to find Empower Montana. I went to their Youth Leadership Institute, and I found that as a young person of color, I could be empowered and listened to, and that my story had value. And there were people who wanted to work with me to better this experience. And that was so eye-opening to me. I had never experienced something like this. And I joined their Youth Advisory Council that next year, my 8th grade year. And I immediately pushed for a affinity space for Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC youth. And it was a hard thing to start because with such a low population, it's difficult to launch an organization, a program like that. But the Empower team really wanted to work with me, and we had our little pilot program my 8th grade year, and it was during COVID, so it was hard to launch. But this last year, we were finally able to get a very successful cohort of young students, middle through high school age, of various different backgrounds, and it felt so rewarding and empowering to see youth who were in the same position that I was, who had the same experiences that I had, and felt the same isolation that I felt. But we were finally in one space where we could foster mentorship, leadership, and all of these skills and resources that these students needed. And it was so incredible, and it is so incredible to be a part of a program and to get to lead these students in a way where they finally have a place of belonging and see the tangible benefits of this. We get to have community events. We have Soul Food Sunday where we we get to eat cultural foods and have these events and have this engagement that previously was not available. Before this, there was no program like this in the entire state of Montana. And so it means a lot to be able to create that space of belonging. And I have these students talk to me about these experiences, and I'm able to give them advice and my personal wisdom, and we're able to have older community members come into our space, and it's almost like a second family of all of us just together, and such a unique space of belonging. And we're able to empower students to know that in their schools, we can push for them to be listened to. We can push for this change. We can push for, in our community, to have resources and programs and all of these elements that are so necessary for students of color of all backgrounds to have this sense of belonging. And I feel in myself that sense of belonging, and yeah, it really has been the most rewarding thing that I have ever done, and I'm so thankful to Empower Montana for giving me an avenue to put my passion toward, and a space for such a program with so many incredible young people.
Excellent.
So I just want to name a few things, just connect a few dots quickly. So thank you, Lizzie. One of our partners in the field, John Kenya, who teaches a lot on system transformation. The first level is always structural, and it's about how you change some of the policies, how resources flow differently, how internal decisions are made. So that's the first level of trying to get to meaningful change. The second level is relational. And it is about how you are able to engage your colleagues, how you are able to engage your peers, and how some of that engagement begins to shift mindsets, practices, and beliefs. The final level is deeply personal, and it's much more of an embodied shift that over time leads to greater transformation. And this is where I want to bring Dr. Shanjan right into the conversation, who helps us to think a lot about healing in this work, because he talks all the time about moving from transactional to transformational. So some of the dots I want to connect around what Lizzie just shared is in her own story of transformation, in her own story of agency, which, by the way, was structurally supported by her program, right? She was on this youth advisory board, and then because of the youth and adult allyship, was able to speak to her need and have the organization meet that need, So, moving into this calling on her purpose and this idea of contribution, was able to design a program that now is nourishing so many other students who share her identity. And so the piece that I want to name is when you think about that structural side of belonging, those different steps of how the organization shifts, how the relationships shift, and then that embodied change that now so many young people who identify as Black are experiencing. That is how we not only get to system transformation, but there's a ripple. I can't wait to 10 years from now have the conversation about how these young people she's mentoring are doing this in so many other ways. Thank you for that story, Lizzie.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Judge Hall, all right. So, not just, again, thank you for being here with us today. I just want to name, again, from a system perspective, that serving as a judge at the Oahu First Circuit Family Court in Hawaii in Honolulu County is not just her daily work and passion, but again, from her bio, deeply grounded in the work she has done in community for many years. It's also worth noting that this work is also part of the collaborative that's focused on embedding Native Hawaiian culture, values, and practices into transforming the juvenile justice system to support young people to experience not just belonging, but well-being in their communities. So given the purpose of our conversation, operationalizing these strategies, I really want to ask you to tell us the story about transforming the local justice system using specifically belonging and well-being. What strategies are you using to bring about transformation, and what impact are you achieving using these approaches?
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
Very happy to be here. Like many of your communities, our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island youth are overrepresented in the system. For example, half of our Native youth represent the juvenile justice system alone, over half. 70% of our detained youth are Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. 70% of our incarcerated youth are Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. 51% of those are just Native Hawaiian. So we need to work to change our system from a punishment system to a system of healing through culture. Yesterday, it was explained to me that culture is resilience, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't all be here still. So we need to get back to our culture. In 2021, as part of a collaboration with our prosecutor's office, public defenders, and attorney generals, we came up with a list of 49 low-level offenses that we could divert first offenders. So these offenses range from abuse of a family or household member, assault in the 3rd degree, theft in the 3rd or 4th degree, criminal trespass in the 2nd, to as low level as status offenses. And for those of you that don't know status offenses, those are things a youth can get in trouble for just because they're being a youth. It's running away, it's truancy. No adult would get in trouble for that. But just because you're a youth, you're gonna get in trouble. And there are some places that will lock youth up for that. So we instead send them to try to divert them into diversion programs. If the youth successfully completes their diversion program, we give them a 90-day mark to finish. We can expand it with the judge's approval for good reasons. Then the criminal petition against them will never be filed. There will not be a record. And then they can apply to get their arrest record expunged. So everything goes completely away. They get a fresh start. This is all done with the purpose of reducing the number of youth in total entering the juvenile justice system. But I want to go one step further. I wanted to bring in the cultural perspective. Because our Native youth are overrepresented, it was important to me to make them connect to their culture. So many of our youth don't know their culture. I myself went to a school where you had to be Native Hawaiian to attend. but I still feel disconnected from my culture. So I can just imagine how these youth who are not getting an education, we have some in our culture saying, you're not Hawaiian enough. That is not right. It should not be what can you do to be Hawaiian, but just the fact that you are Hawaiian.
Yes, you just get to be.
So the goal is to reconnect through culture practices so youth are stronger emotionally, through belonging in their community and culture, and in turn creating a stronger community as a whole. Through partnerships, we empower our community by having our community organizations create programming based on their strengths and their abilities and their cultural beliefs. So youth are diverted to programs such as one created by Sean with Partners in Development called Ho'okanaka. Ho'okanaka is a 6-week program. The youth come for 6 Saturdays, and they work in a farm. They get their hands dirty. And it's important that these youth work on the farm because they learn about themselves. They recognize how to deal with stressors, how to reconnect with their families in a positive manner. Being on the land and taking care of the land, or aina, as we call it in Hawaiian, is a strong cultural connection for us. The aina is the most important thing. We consider the aina to be our relative. We come from them. So if we take care of the aina will take care of us. So with Ho'okanaka, myself, another judge, and some of our probation officers, we even got on the farm with the kids. We were weeding, we were cutting down trees. We were just talking to them as we did it, having a basic conversation, not about what they did. What's their interests? What do they like to do? How are they doing in school? During the final session of each cohort, because we do it in cohorts, the youth has to work with their parent doing some type of project, whether it's cooking, making a lei together, or pounding poi. And it never fails. When you sit back, the families are off on their own, doing their own thing. They're talking, they're having a conversation, they're smiling and laughing. Many parents come to us after and say, it's been a long time since I've had a conversation that we laughed together, and they just absolutely enjoyed it. At the very end, after they're done with their project together, the families, the youth, the supporters, we all get together and we share a meal. In Hawaiian culture, sharing a meal is extremely important because it's a sign of a strong community and a support system. The youth are also provided with lei as a sign of their accomplishments that they have made. We've had we've had several youth actually come back after their cohort is done because they wanted to continue to volunteer. They felt so connected. The adults who were putting the program together, we knew how hard it was for parents to get the kids there for 6 weeks in a row. So we considered cutting the program down to 3 or 4 weeks. It was the youth that told us, don't do that. They told us that took them to the 4th week to realize why they were there and why it was so important. So we all know, studies show, when youth are in a supported environment where they feel that they're thriving and belong, we see successful, positive outcomes for them and for the community as a whole. And we need the community to be the leaders in creating that program so they feel a sense of belonging and they have that connection to the youth. So that's what we need to do. That's what's important to me. We're still in our very infancy stage of creating these programs, but with great community partners, we can continue to make cultural programs, not only for our Native Hawaiian youth, but we also want to expand it for our Micronesian youth. We have a huge Micronesian population, and they are not only disconnected by distance from their land, but they're in a strange land that they don't feel that they belong or welcomed. So we need to work with those organizations as well to make them feel like they belong.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Hall. One thing really quickly, even in the framing, initially it was around purpose and belonging, but I would be remiss if I did not pull this thread around the power of identity-based meaning making. So if you have studied at the School of Arnold Chandler, then you just heard the story of what that looks like. But it doesn't stop there. Because see, identity-based meaning making, what it does for young people that Judge Hall just helped to illustrate is it helps them to understand the power of their culture. It helps them to understand those roots in ways that not only transform that internal conversation, that posture, the way that they're showing up, but they remain rooted in it in a way that helps them relationally with peers, working in the context of their program, and having that community orientation and frame. But when you throw in the structural side of it, when you throw in the piece of power that Judge Hall is also speaking to, that's how we get to the power of the ability of these types of interventions to foster meaningful transformation. Because the identity-based meaning making is so critical. We can't get to the transformation we're seeking without supporting young people to experience that kind of transformation. But it needs to be married and coupled with the power of sitting in a system where you can drive the types of reforms that are so different. When Judge Hall is talking about diversion programs that are identity-based, rooted in culture, and help these young people experience an entirely different trajectory, that's how we get to the structural and system transformation that is the vision of belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. So I say that to say, please hold in your head identity-based meaning making, yes. Please hold in your head shifting structures and systems so that they operate differently. And please hold in all of that the role that power plays, the ability to be able to implement an entirely different trajectory for young people in your community. Thank you so much, Judge Hall. You can't have this conversation without talking about power. So, Dr. Kevin James, as I got a chance to share just a little bit in your bio, you have led your institution through its greatest transformation from a post-secondary system that was deemed bankrupt and lost its accreditation to an institution positioned to expand accessibility and opportunity. Please tell us the story of that post-secondary transformation, including how your commitment to centering young people and finding their purpose, experience, meaning making, and well-being has shaped not just the college, but has improved student outcomes.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and good morning to everyone. Everywhere I go, I have to do a temperature check. If you've ever seen the movie Drumline, raise your hand. Okay. The college in the movie Drumline, Morris Brown College, was not a fictional college. That was our college. That is our college, Morris Brown College. I gotta tell you a quick story. 6 months after that movie grossed $50 million, that same institution known as Morris Brown College lost its accreditation. We literally went from 3,000 students to 20 students overnight. When we lost our accreditation due to some financial mismanagement back then, this was 2002, we lost our accreditation, we lost access to federal financial aid, which means students of color could not pay to go to college. And again, they had to transfer out or go on somewhere else. Our institution is very unique because we're the only institution in the state of Georgia that was actually founded by Black people. Former slaves in 1881, 143 years ago. When our institution lost its accreditation, the city of Atlanta was shifted because so many students who did not have access and opportunity to a higher education were displaced and had nowhere to go. 6 years ago, I was at home watching the news, and I saw where my predecessor retired, resigned. And I literally out loud said, wow, Morris Brown College, they're still open. I want to be the president of Morris Brown College. And the way it was set up, I went to Google and I Googled Morris Brown College and I saw that the school was affiliated with the African Methodist Episcopal Church. This was at 7 o'clock at night. And so I don't know what I was thinking, but I just Googled AME Church and I called. This was at 7 o'clock at night. And the way that God set it up, the chairman of the board's assistant answered the phone. Now, we as folks, we do not answer the phone after hours. So I know that God was all purposed in it. And I said, hello, my name is Kevin James. You don't know me, but I just saw on the news where your president resigned. And I know that Morris Brown College lost its accreditation 20 years ago. I want to be the next president of Morris Brown College. I feel like I'm purposed to save this school. And two complete strangers talked on the phone for 45 minutes, 7 o'clock at night. And at the end of that conversation, the chairman's assistant said, send me your resume. I'm going to put it in the chairman's hands. About a month later, I got an interview, an email or a call for an interview, and I was so excited. And so what I did was I called a president who I had previously looked up to, over 20 years of studying higher education. And I got this president on the phone. It took me a long time, but I finally got him on the phone. And I said, you'll never believe this. I got an interview to be the president of Morris Brown College. What do you think about that? And this president, who was my person who I really looked up to, he said, Kevin, you're wasting my time. Call somebody else. Click. And hung up in my face. And literally my balloon was popped. And I was like, oh my God, this gentleman who I looked up to, he couldn't take 5 minutes just to hear me out. And so I called another mentor, and I said, you're not going to believe this. I got her on the phone, and I said, you're not going to believe this. I got an interview to be the president of Morris Brown College. And she is the #1 researcher of black colleges in the country. And she said, Kevin, Morris Brown in Atlanta? And I said, yeah. And she said, Kevin, you know that's never been done before, right? And I said, what's never been done? And she says, since 1837, there have been about 140 plus historical black colleges. Today, there are 100 left. No closed HBCU has ever come back. And she said, are you sure about this? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. And she said, I've known you for 15 years. If you're sure, I believe that you can do it. I went into my very first interview, and I said, not if you hire me, but when you hire me, here's how we're going to save Morris Brown College. And I appreciate that applause, but the Board of Trustees whooped my behind in that interview. 3 interviews later, here I am, the president of Morris Brown College. Thank you. I'm going somewhere with this story. I went in March 1, 2019, and I went in on the very first day. And I sat down at the desk, and I said, I've heard about Morris Brown. I know that Morris Brown has been closed. We never closed, but we've been somewhere between 20 and 30 students over the last 20 years. I said, bring me all the bills. And they brought me a stack of bills. Morris Brown College had not paid any of its bills in 2 years. But the lights were on. The water was on. I could not believe it. I said, well, I met the faculty and staff. Bring me the faculty and staff payroll. And the faculty and staff were 7 paychecks behind. But they were at work with a smile. I was like, what in the world is going on here? Now, this is the biggest one of all. And I just couldn't believe it. And I said, well, bring me the bank account. And they brought me the bank account. Morris Brown College had $700 to its name. I had more money in my account than Morris Brown College had. I literally got up from my desk and I walked outside and I started talking out loud to God. And I said, what in the world did I just walk into? But I heard a voice, and the voice said, Kevin, use what you got. And Morris Brown College is in downtown Atlanta. We sit on the richest land in the city of Atlanta. And I said, we're going to do this. To make a very, very, very long story short, Morris Brown College has made history. Somebody say history.
History.
Somebody say history.
History.
As the first HBCU to ever rebound after a nearly 20-year hiatus. $35 million bankruptcy. The loss of our land. We lost 37 acres of land in bankruptcy. The loss of our accreditation. The loss of our fiscal resources. The loss of our students. The loss of almost everything. But I am here today to proclaim that dry bones can live again. And we've made the history. When I first became the president of Morris Brown College, no one would even talk to me. No one would even talk to me. And so when I found out that no one would help us, I used social media to tell a story. I found out very early in my presidential journey that people didn't believe what anyone was saying because it had been 20 years that had passed. No one believed that this was even possible. And so I found out very early in my journey that people didn't believe what I said. They would only believe what they saw. And guess how we saved Morris Brown? Facebook. I'm very serious. I'm writing my book right now, chapter 3, Social Media Saved Morris Brown. What I did was, John Maxwell in his book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, said that momentum is a leader's best friend. All I needed was a little bit of momentum. And so what I did was, everything that we did on a daily basis, I would post everything and say, look at Morris Brown, we're painting the walls. Here's a president painting a wall. Look at us. Hey, we got Home Depot to donate some carpet. We're putting down carpet. Look at us. My students here saying, yeah, she saw it. That's how she got to Morris Brown. And we started to build steam. And things started to go viral. I couldn't believe why people would be interested. But nevertheless, we've made the history. We're now fully accredited. First college in history, black or white institution, to ever get its financial aid back after a bankruptcy. We now have our veterans benefits reinstated, so we're enrolling military. We're now approved for international students. First school to ever pull that off, so we already have 4 students from the Bahamas, 2 from Africa, 1 from Europe, and we're enrolling more. And we're now the most affordable. Somebody say affordable.
Affordable.
We are now the most affordable institution in the city of Atlanta. As we were going through the accreditation process, I'm almost done.
That's all right.
As we were going through the accreditation process, we filed bankruptcy. We were never supposed to get to the other side of bankruptcy. As we were going through the accreditation process, I was this hairy, audacious goal. I said to my board of trustees, I said, we've made it to the other side of bankruptcy. We should never be here. I want my students to graduate 100% debt-free. What? My board, what? I said, we don't have a $50 million football stadium to pay for. We don't have $40 million dorms to pay for. We can charge whatever tuition we want to charge. And so we are now the most affordable. It's a lot of conversation around this country right now about student loan debt. I'm not going to get into the political talk, but what if a college, a 4-year institution on the front end said, come to us and we want to graduate you debt-free. Right. Thank you. So 75% of my students are Pell eligible, which means they get grants and resources from the federal government that they do not have to pay back. So if a student has to take out a $1,500 loan, even if they took out that loan, they graduate with little to no debt. That's a car payment when they graduate. But what if I can partner with organizations to serve as the gap? That $1,500, $2,000 for these students, and they graduate 100% debt-free. We've been accredited only 2 years. When I started, we had 20 students. Now we're up to 430 students. And it's my goal that they all graduate debt-free. Miss Crystal McCullough, she's graduating in May, and she's gonna graduate debt-free. Thank you. So Morris Brown College, again, we've made this history. We've been in existence for 143 years. We're doing something very innovative in higher education sphere. There's only 100 HBCUs. That serves as 3% of all black colleges and universities. HBCUs are so important because they graduate nearly 25% of all African American college graduates. So 3% of colleges, but yet we graduate 25%.
Say it.
So we do more with less. That's why I could not let Morris Brown College close. Thank you for having me here today. I'm so excited. I hope I answered your question.
So we must now hear from Crystal, but let me just say this. First of all, that was the story of love, right? Right? That was the story of resurrection, but very specifically, the making the impossible possible and the reimagining. We're clear about what we don't want, and we are clear about what we want. And in doing that, also then a story about both accessibility for students and opportunity for students. So when we talk about the structural side of belonging, well-being, and purpose, all of that is deeply rooted in what Dr. James has shared. But let me also add, because we have not talked about this, but when we're speaking about well-being, specifically for Black and brown young people, financial well-being is critical, right? Which, by the way, leads to financial belonging as well. So I just had to pull some of those threads before we get an opportunity to hear from Crystal. So Crystal, noting that you found Morris Brown College after attending 2 other colleges, how did the transformation Dr. James spoke of serve to expand opportunities not just for you, but for other students to be able to connect to their purpose, experience well-being, and also belonging? Please tell us the story of Morris Brown College from the student perspective.
Okay, so as Ms. Monique was saying, I did go to 2 other institutions before I came to Morris Brown. I didn't really find a purpose there. I was adopted at the age of 8, and at the other institutions that I went to, they didn't really have like any foster care initiatives for me to be able to reach out to other students and connect with them. They didn't really have any mental health benefits, any career success coaches for me to reach out to for what I wanted to do after college. And it was a little bit of a struggle. I did run track at one of the colleges that I went to. I went on a track scholarship. I ended up getting injured and I moved back to Florida. So I didn't really find any purpose of me going there after I was injured, because I'm like, I came here for, my athletics, but now I'm injured, so what am I gonna do? And my mom was telling me, like, you should look into Morris Brown. Like, I've been following them, they just got their
Social media saved Morris Brown.
Yes, and she's just like, you should try them. Like, Drumline, the movies, like, you don't want to go? I'm like, okay, I'll try. I'll reach out. And when I tell you, it was such an easy process to get into Morris Brown. They weren't, when you called Morris Brown, they answered the phone. They weren't like any other HBCUs where, you never hear from them. And I was just like, wow, they're calling me back. I got my letter of acceptance within a week. Like, it was a beautiful experience. And Morris Brown has changed my life. I am now spearheading the foster care initiative that we're bringing to the school. Yes, and I don't really talk about my adoption experience as much, and I know that coming here definitely changed my whole perspective of what it is to help youth. And I am the former president of my esports team, and I was able to help those students, find a spirit of belonging and well-being in that area. That is an outlet for them to be able to come in our esports lab, compete with each other. They have so much fun. They come and they play the game and stuff like that. And Morris Brown has so many resources as well that I've never had at any other school, such as therapists, 24 hours. Like, if you want to speak to a therapist, if you need help after college, we have development and career coaches that help you find a job, an internship. Like, I've never seen anything like that. And just walking into Morris Brown, it's a different feeling. At these other colleges that I went to, I didn't feel like a sense of welcoming there at all. Morris Brown, they come in, hi, how are you doing? How may I assist you? I'm just like, oh my God. But I love it so much because it's such a family culture. And even the alumni, when they come back from homecoming, they just come up to you and they're just like, hey, how can I assist you? Let me give you some money. What do you need help with,
True.
And also, when it comes to the well-being part of it all, we don't have any dorms because we did lose a lot of our land due to us losing our accreditation. But Atlanta has a housing crisis right now. There is so many apartments that is being built. There's not enough. And since we don't have dorms, that is a lot of the reason why we weren't able to accept students. But we were able to find a solution to that because we didn't want that to be a barrier to where that's why students couldn't come. So we partnered with numerous luxury apartments nearby in the city at a discounted rate of $600 to $900 a month. Yes. Yes. Yes.
That wasn't easy.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
A lot of negotiating and begging.
Yes. And when I tell you, like, other colleges, because we're campus, it's 5 HBCUs on our campus within walking distance. I've heard people from Clark and Spelman coming over, hey, how we get that deal to where we can, I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, you have to come to Morris Brown. And that alone just shows how much they care. Like, every time there's a problem that comes about that is affecting the student body, they make sure that they take it, they recalibrate, and they come up with a solution. And they do it really fast. And that just shows how much, like, the rich history, how much they care for their students. And that's important. I want to feel like I belong, like I have a purpose here. And coming to Morris Brown, I know what I want to do with my life. I know what I want to do after college. I'm the public relations director of the Goniki Honor Society at my school. Yes, I'm the former assistant to my president. So it's been an amazing
The only
experience.
reason she's former assistant is because she came to me and said, Dr. James, I got a full-time job paying me 100 times more than what you paying me. As a senior.
Yes. So I'm just very grateful for Morris Brown. They opened up so many doors for me. I always say that they changed my life because they really have. I've never would have seen myself in this place that I am now. So I'm just so thankful for Morris Brown and all that they have done for me.
Woo!
Thank you, Crystal. I need to connect some dots between what Dr. James shared and then what Crystal spoke to. So at the structural level, hearing specifically Dr. James' story and then hearing it reflected back in Crystal, one of the things we know our young people need are stabilization supports, right? So we heard the story of housing, but structurally for the institution to put that in place so that young people experience stabilization, which is necessary before they get to belonging, right? That is really, really important. And then the financial piece, structurally what he did institutionally so that young people can experience financial well-being that then contributes to the belonging, greater purpose, greater well-being. And then I also thought Crystal so beautifully illustrated all of the cultural pieces of this work as well, right? So the supportive adults, a belief in your purpose and what's possible, but also barrier removal so that you could explore those things. So it's really important to be able to hold, things like belonging and purpose and well-being at that structural level and thinking about post-secondary transformation, but to be able to ground that into a student's lived experience and to hear Crystal talk about not just internally her transformation, what it meant to finally land at an institution where she experienced belonging, but then to hear her story of how that then ripples out, what it is that she's doing for her peers, how she's giving back to the institution. Again, need to ground that in the way that that's structural, feeds the personal, and then the ripples for peers, for community, et cetera. So thank you to both of you for those stories.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Cloud, so excited to come to you because we started at the individual level that transformed programs. Then we went to hear about the structural story, the system transformation on the juvenile piece, the juvenile side, and then the post-secondary side. And now we're gonna pull the aperture all the way back and hear about citywide transformation. I'm telling you, there's a big vision. There's a big vision around this work. So knowing that that is the arc here, I want to say specifically to you, Cloud, as a young leader in New Orleans, you played a critical role in the design and implementation of the New Orleans Youth Master Plan, which not only engaged young people in designing creative solutions, it also fostered a greater sense of belonging and purpose for young people throughout the city. Please tell us the story of the Youth Master Plan, including sharing a few concrete outcomes from the strategy that have led young people in New Orleans to experience greater belonging and a deeper sense of purpose.
Of
course. Well, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. We'll do that. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Have some high energy. So y'all probably, and some of you may have heard my name throughout the days, me getting mentioned, being like Cloud in the Youth Master Plan. Well, this is my face. Hello. So I'm originally born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. That is my lovely city. And if you've ever watched the news, there's a high crime rate in New Orleans. We all know that. And most of it is with the youth. It's because some of them feel as though they don't have a purpose. And I've been in that position. I've had friends in that position. I've lost friends to them being like, I don't have a purpose. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I want to go. And I decided, you know what? Let me switch this up a little bit. And I was with Amnesty International throughout high school. They connected me with New Deal for Youth. And not New Deal for Youth, sorry. New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board. There's a lot of organizations in my head right now.
That's all right.
New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board. And I went there, got connected with Maggie, who's sitting in the front right now. Got connected with Maggie, and everything fell into place after that. Over COVID, that's when things started falling into place for me, because we started working on the Youth Master Plan. Yes, it was already being built. It was a foundation, but we expanded on that. And now it's this physical thing that you can hold and that you breathe and that you can see happen within our city and impact our youth in the most positive way possible. It's a 10-year plan that basically describes how to make sure everything within our city is youth-led and youth-centered, making sure that there is at least someone between the ages of 16 to 25 within every single organization. So it helps bring the well-being into the space, because New Orleans Children and Youth Planning Board is youth-led. Everyone within there is between the ages of 16 and 24 that are helping the city. Yes, we have older leaders in there, but they say, hey, I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna give you the flow. Tell me what you need, and we gonna make sure it becomes an actual thing. So for example, right now in our city, we have free transportation for youth between the ages of 16 to 24 to take the RT, regardless if it's a bus, the ferry, the trolley, whatever, they don't have to pay for it, because it is so hard to get Who in here has hard time getting transportation in their city or in their local area? Right. Exactly, it is hard. And so within the youth in New Orleans, half of them can't even get a job. Wow. Because the high population. So how are they gonna pay $2 for bus fare? They're gonna have to scrounge in their couch to find at least some quarters and $1. So we made it possible for them to have that free transportation. We even have youth within the water board, the sewage water board, and they're having a say in what's going on in our city to make sure that all families and youth have at least a decent amount of resources, because they never had it before. I know I never did. I never had those sources until I went to NOLA CYPB and discovered the Youth Master Plan and helped expand off of that. We even collaborated with Studio B within our Flip the Script meeting during COVID to be like, hey, what are these narratives being put on youth? We talked about it. These narratives were that we were lazy. We didn't have no say in what was going on. We didn't know nothing about politics. We didn't want to be involved. But we had this big meeting with 500 plus people in a Zoom. Come on. And we're all like, oh, we know what we want to do. We know what's going on. We have creative solutions. Yeah. We just need you to step back a little bit, and we're going to put these solutions into play, and you're going to see us thrive. Because we are the youth. We have creative solutions. We know what's going on. You just didn't give us a chance. Give us a chance? Oh, we about to switch it up in the city, and y'all gonna see us play. Yeah. Y'all gonna see us put everything into play. And that's when stuff started falling. So instead of sitting there saying, hey, y'all don't know what's happening in your own city, talk. Let us talk. Let us be at that table. We even have youth in the mayor's office.
Wow.
Coming up with solutions for us and talking to the mayor, being like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we can fix it. And they're still doing that. They're using our plan to do that. Yes, they are. That's what it is. The youth master plan is a foundation for everything else to come to that conclusion of purpose and having youth be able to be like, hey, I know what I want to do in my life now. I know where I want to go. And I'm a result of that. I got connected with New Deal for Youth through NOLA CYPB. Because at first, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what college I wanted to go to. I didn't know what I wanted to major in. But NOLA CYPB was like, hey, let me open these doors for you. Mm-hmm. Let me open these doors and tell you, here's your options. They, OPEDs, you'll see my name in the Advocate of Baton Rouge with an OPED written. I go to a private art college because of them. Because they opened my eyes to these opportunities that I didn't even know I was capable of. It gave me a purpose. The youth master plan gave me a purpose. And look at me, I'm up here. I didn't even know I was going to be up here. I was like, whoa, I got invited to this? Yes. So it's a foundation. And overall, it's a foundation.
Excellent.
Thank you. So I just want to connect a few dots structurally, because knowing that really what Cloud has spoke to so poignantly is meaningful space for young people to, again, talk about the challenges, barriers to accessing opportunity, for young people to ideate together, again, all of that reimagining work, and then to connect that to the structural barriers that expand both access and opportunity. So transportation for young people, because we know, especially for the population of young people that this work is meant to serve, that is the difference between whether or not you can go to work, right? Whether or not you even have the opportunity to experience financial well-being. I also heard Cloud even mention access to water, right? So that also is so critical, not just to well-being, but just to general basic health. And my wondering is, if you don't even have young people in the room naming things like that, as an adult, do you even think about it? To connect the conversation to even Brooke yesterday. Brooke was like, but you also, as an adult, don't have clean water. Yep. So it's very important that you have young people naming these things and holding them, adults, accountable. And then even mentioning having young people in the mayor's office, which all of us know what that means for city-level outcomes, because it's not just transportation then that young people get to impact. It's education, it's housing. That gets to social determinants of health. And young people being able to play a meaningful role in helping cities reshape, from a youth perspective, the social determinants of health and how the community gets to a better place. Again, thinking about the structural side of belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. So friends, we have 2 minutes left. And you should know this, we had lots of questions planned, but the most important thing was to tell stories of what this looks like on the ground. Again, to move from the individual programmatic level to the system level to the citywide level of transformation. So here's what I want to do. I want to ask each of these people, each of our panelists to close us out. And what I really want to, what I want to ask each of you to do is help us to understand your vision for the future. So I think we probably really have, realistically, maybe 30, 45 seconds for each of you to share. Sorry. But here's what I want to ask you to do. This work that each of you have spoken to, that's already changing locally, the experiences of young people, again, at the program, system, and citywide level. I want you to help all of us close our eyes and envision a future. 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, this work has spread. those system transformations each of you spoke to have manifested. Please give us a sense from your vision, what does the future look like and what does the future feel like? We can start with whoever wants to start. Lizzie has this beautiful smile on her face, so.
I think what I envision for the future, I would love for there to be more programs like the Association for BIPOC Youth in public schools across the country, especially in rural settings. I think, the expansion of that and making that something that is so accessible is really important, and also locally for Montana. I would love for our youth to be able to push for some legislation to protect our rights, because there is a lot of censorship in schools. We're not allowed to talk about race, and that's a huge problem. That's not okay.
Wow.
I want to see historical trauma be addressed in a healing way. I want the sense of cultural resilience to be strong in everybody in the community. I want to see Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders no longer be overrepresented in our juvenile justice system. And I want to see stronger family units so that the cycle of the justice system does not continue.
Somebody say access.
Access.
Somebody say opportunity.
Opportunity.
Morris Brown College has a line in its alma mater that says, we are a haven for all hungry souls. And what that means is, whosoever wants to come, come. For 143 years, we've been an institution of access and opportunity, giving people, all people, an opportunity of a higher education. The second line of the alma mater says, and feeding them shall be our goal. The faculty, the staff, the alumni, all shareholders, we will feed and give the students everything that we need. So what I want to see for the future is more access and more opportunity for all.
I think what I definitely want to see when it comes to Morris Brown, because my journey doesn't just stop with Morris Brown after I graduate. I want to continue to see my school get built up to where it once was hundreds of years ago, even before our accreditation loss. And I also want for the foster care initiative that we are starting to be a continuous thing, especially for children who have been in the system, because not everybody knows what it's like. And to be in that system, you want to find somebody and other people who have been in that similar system with you, because it is a very trying and very traumatic process. So I would want that to be something that Morris Brown has as a program for many students to be able to come to that foster care program.
For me, because I'm going to continue my youth advocacy work even after I graduate, to continuously see my city, New Orleans, seeing the city grow, seeing the youth having a space to talk and communicate and being at the table continuously and endlessly and saying, hey, this is the issue. Here's a solution we came up with, and not being shut out, because we all want youth to sit at that table and talk. So continuously having that is what I want, and just creating that space and not having them out on the street and stranded just because of stereotypes being put on them.
Because John Powell's definition of belonging is co-creating the table, not just inviting young people to it. So thank you. This was a conversation about operationalizing belonging, meaning, well-being, and purpose. Again, program level, system level, and citywide level. And it was a conversation about nourishment. It was a conversation about love. It was a conversation about joy. And it was very, very much a conversation about connection and community. Please join me in thanking these panelists.